Three. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to our channel, The Journey Within with Christopher Mack. Today we are
And Wanda Webster.
well, it's Wanda Webster now. I originally wasn't supposed to be in these videos, but we are still on a quarantine, social lockdown, whatever you want to call it. So our director, editor is not available to come over film, take the film back. So we decided to do this quarantine series. So today we're going to talk, and so now hence I am on camera. It wasn't going to be my favorite thing to do, but here we are. So choice, what is choice? Because I know I was guilty of this in, 10 years ago when I met Christopher. I would say, well, people have a choice. They're just making bad choices in their life. Why can't they just choose differently? And you explained that AA says, well, you explain it. You're going to explain it a lot
I
better.
don't know if I said AA says, but
Big book?
well, no, I started to realize something about choice. I
Mm-hmm.
always, it was because I was doing the dynamics of recovery groups. What came into focus was that, what was choice? And I would always look and say, what is choice? Choice is more than one option. That's what I would come up with. The simplest idea about choice was that choice is always more than one option. However, when you're in the throes of addiction, the habit is making the decision, no matter what comes your way. You have so many, for lack of a better word, you have so many different ideas that come in and start to dictate, what you're going to do. So if you're caught up in an addiction, the addiction itself is going to tell you what needs to be done. And I always used to like to use the idea of a person smoking cigarettes. It's very difficult for him to choose not to smoke a cigarette when the habit has already told him before breakfast, when I get up in the morning, I'm gonna have a cigarette. It's not even talking in that language, but that's the first thing he runs to. Then it says after breakfast, I'm gonna have a cigarette with my cup of coffee. And so when you look at what is choice, it seems that there would be no choice, because he can always say no, but it's easier said than done. So
Well, even if somebody says no and they say, well, I quit, it's been 2 or 3 days, and they're aware and they had strong willpower, whatever it was, it seems to seep back in those old habits and patterns, correct?
yeah, the pattern, and we don't know why we choose the things that we choose. Uh, you know, say that we've had wounds that are sending out messages from the past on, and giving us a perspective or a perception, attitude. So, and then our attitude says it starts to make the decision based upon whatever the attitude is or whatever the perception of the individual is. I don't even know, but when I started to realize that I had old behaviors that made choices for me, and it was difficult for me to have more than one option. For instance, there was a lot of times I had a bad perception of how I felt about a certain thing, and the feeling would come up, and I would make a decision based upon how I was feeling. I don't know if that makes any sense to you, Wanda, but it was those feelings that said, oh, do it this way. Oh, they don't like you. Oh, you remember when you were small and that happened to you? And so all of that sometimes that self-talk that starts to go on, and we start to say, yeah, that's right. And then whatever the circumstance or situation is, the choice is left, because now there's no more options, because all of those things that we are accustomed to starts to talk to us in a way, in a language of feeling. And remember, we're not in touch with sometimes we're not in touch with our feelings. Sometimes I'm not in touch with my feelings. I don't know about you, but sometimes I'm not in touch with my feelings. And sometimes I feel a certain way because I have a certain attitude, and that attitude is attached to a feeling. And so now, where maybe I should make a healthier choice, I don't. I make the decision based upon how I'm feeling about something.
Mhm. Well, when it started making more sense to me is when I related it to children, and I work with special needs children, and some of them have very bad habits. So I would explain to them that it was like, you remember the old wagon train, the old horse and buggy or whatever, they'd go down these dirt roads and they'd create ruts in the road. And it's like our brain has those ruts that are the pathways that are just that we keep using over and over and over. The thought, the idea, the feeling, the behavior, the action, again, goes back to the belief. All of those things create that same rut because we don't challenge it. We don't bring it into awareness to say, well, wait a minute, why do I believe the things I believe? Does that make sense, Christopher?
Yeah, it does make sense.
So we're creating new neural pathways. I don't necessarily use that with the kids, but I said we want to create a new path so that your brain is thinking differently this time when you're trying different things, new things.
Sometimes it's like, here's one of my old ruts. I like that. I like that you gave it some language. It's one of my old ruts, is feeling bad and, being depressed and, saying, oh, wow, nothing's going to turn out right for me. And so I said, well, maybe if I can just go get something and stop that feeling from happening, and so all of a sudden there's a choice that says, well, you can go to an amusement park, or you could sit here and feel, bad. Instead of going to the amusement park, I sat there and felt bad. And it wasn't really because that's what I really wanted to do, or because I had a choice. There was a choice, but it didn't happen because sitting alone in my misery was something that was normal. It was something that I was used to, and I was comfortable with. And sometimes those old habits are our comfort zone. And I like the fact that you said, sometimes we have to challenge ourselves, get out of the comfort zone. And there's questions you can ask yourself. You can say, is this healthy? Not is it right or wrong? Is it healthy for me? And, switching the questions, sometimes we get caught up in what's right and what's wrong. And it leaves us with little choice because we say, wow, man, it might be right, but it don't feel right. And so it says, oh, wait a minute. Oh, okay, I can skip on this because guess what? It feels okay, but if nobody knows, I'm all right. But is it the best thing to do?
Well, it might feel right in the moment to take the shortcut, the easy way out, whatever, but it creeps up on you. Sooner or later, that doesn't feel good. You might get that instant gratification feeling, or maybe I got away with something, or I had an intense high. But sooner or later, the truth creeps back in, I believe.
I like that because the shortcut was the comfort zone. The shortcut is what I know best.
Right.
And the shortcut may not be the best thing for me, even in that situation or circumstances. But if I do the shortcut, man, and no matter how many times the shortcut proved to me that it wasn't the right thing, it wasn't the healthier thing to do, it wasn't the right thing to do, the shortcut said, oh, wow, you can get it done in record time and then you can go on. But the shortcut never proved to amount to anything substantial, consistent, or positive. And so I take the shortcut anyway. And
So the indicator, and our book goes into this a lot. The book is called The Journey Within. It's on Amazon, Target, Barnes and Noble. Is that you start questioning what are the results that you're getting. If you're getting fabulous results in your life and you're happy, keep doing what you're doing. But if not, I mean, how are your relationships? You know, we'll talk about how does the book teach you how to get more, how to have more choice, empower you so that you do have choice in your life. Christopher, talk about how it does that,
Well,
facilitates that.
did it work the last time? I mean,
Mm.
the results are the indicators. And so you could just, if you are only doing the surface, yeah, you're going to get a short-term answer. But what about that long-term solution to problems? The same problem keeps coming up. It keeps coming up in different forms. I keep on addressing, but it isn't until I ask a question that may be irrelevant, or it may not even pertain to what's going on at that circumstances, but then there's an answer that comes that's totally unrelated, but it starts to be a solution. And
Mhm.
so therefore the question becomes the tool that I use. I like to say the question becomes the flashlight in the dark halls of my mind, because there's a lot of times we have buried the outcomes, and we keep using the same thing because we keep on pushing the outcomes away. They said no, and then it says it's going to be different this time. Of course, we know the old adage that doing the same thing, expecting different result is a form of insanity.
Well, the
But
book is not for surface dwellers. No surface dwellers are going to be happy with our book. So, all right, Christopher, anything you want to wrap up with on choice?
well, ask yourself, uh, do I have a real understanding of the choices that I make, especially when the results are unhealthy, or the results are the same thing that leaves you wanting. Are you free in that, in what your choices are? Are you happy in what your choices are? And if you are, continue, like she said, like Wanda said, if it's working for you, continue to do what works. But if you want to look deeper, I suggest that you take the journey within. It's only a suggestion. So to find out that there is this wonderful, beautiful person that maybe you didn't want to meet, maybe he snuck up on you, whatever. There. So take the journey within.
All right. Thank you, Christopher.